Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Dam and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies, and today I'm giving you a spoiler-free review of Godzilla vs. Kong. So Godzilla vs. Kong is the fourth movie in this franchise. We've got Godzilla from 2014, then Kong Skull Island, and then Godzilla King of the Monsters, which just came out about 2 years ago, and this one follows up on that, introducing these two characters for the first time. Now, one thing I really like about this franchise is they've done a very good job of picking interesting directors, and I think this one has, at least for me, one of the most interesting directors, Adam Wingard. He did one of the better segments on the VHS movie series, then he went on to do You're Next, which was sort of a genre-bending horror movie that did very well and I liked a lot. And then one of my favorite hidden gem movies to recommend on this channel, longtime subscribers know, The Guest. I love that movie, it's on Netflix right now. All much smaller movies, so when it got announced that he was doing this, I was very interested. But putting a director like that, especially one that I personally like, into a big franchise can be kind of like fitting a square peg into a round hole. However, I think Wingard managed to bring his own flavor to this movie while still making it feel like it meshed with the franchise, which I was surprised by. Not that I didn't think he could do it, but I was surprised at how successful he was at that. Now, if you're not familiar with the phrase jumping the shark, it comes from the series Happy Days, where the Fonz actually jumped a shark, and that was towards the end of the series, and it has since been a phrase used when a series or franchise goes too far and they basically are done. So I'll start this review off by saying this movie was so over the top at times that yes, it jumped the shark, but unlike Happy Days and most other things that jumped the shark, it did a triple Lindy, kicked off both skis and landed barefoot and kept f***ing going. Now, I don't mean to oversell this movie. This is a big universe movie with big, spectacular visual effects and kind of a thin story. However, that comes with the territory. That's the type of movie that it is. So when you take that into consideration, I think a lot of things work a lot better in this movie than they did in some of the previous ones, and I liked the previous ones. In fact, I watched all of them in the week leading up to this movie, which if you have an HBO Max account, you can watch every single movie leading up to it, and you can watch this movie for about 30 days before they take it off. But Godzilla vs. Kong had a great introduction with sort of a surprise, and then the movie itself had multiple surprises along the way. I was surprised at how many times I was surprised during this one. I think I might have said that on my Nobody review. I was actually surprised at how many times it was able to surprise me, but it still stands for this one as well. And of course, there is a lot of silliness that you're gonna have to overlook, but that comes with the territory in movies like this, kind of like post-credit sequences. By the way, there's not one for this movie, which I was also surprised by. But most of the silliest, or for lack of a better word, stupid moments in the movie actually end up almost immediately giving way to some of the best moments in the movie. It's almost as if Adam Wingard came into a thin script, which a lot of the ones in this franchise have been pretty thin script-wise, but instead of changing it dramatically, just said, hey, what if we did this, or what if we did that, and just manipulated it enough to make it interesting and fun and entertaining. Maybe he didn't do that, but somebody definitely did, because as much as I liked King of the Monsters, it was this big spectacle with all these monsters and just really wild shots, just cool stuff. The characters in that movie are flat as can be. Now, some of them are here as well. However, this one has the most interesting cast and characters out of anything in this series. And I will talk more about some of the characters, but their backgrounds, their behavior, their motivations, more importantly, are more interesting in this movie than some of the others, even if their dialogue is still pretty flat. I mean, the movie does have a lot of basic exposition scenes where it's just two people talking in a room, again, flat. The characters are a little more dynamic than they have been in some of the other movies. However, the movie does not spend too much time doing that. It spends enough, but the action keeps rolling with this one, where some of the other ones spent way too much time on that stuff, and it didn't really serve the story all the extra time. And they managed to trim the fat with Godzilla and Kong in a way that they haven't done with the previous movies. And they also did a great job of sort of recognizing some classic Kong and Godzilla things. For instance, there is a thing with a little girl it manages to work, as odd as it is, because the lore of King Kong kind of involves him falling in love with a woman. It's different here, but different in a good way. They show him in shackles at one point, and it's different, again, in a good way. So the movie recognizes the source material and the lore really well, and then changes it enough to make it interesting. And even the villain in this one and the previous one, their motivations aren't just as simple as, like, let's destroy the Earth. There's a little more going on there, again, just enough to make it more dynamic and not make it super flat, like some of these big spectacle visual effects roller coaster ride movies can be. I thought it had a stunning look to it. It might be the most colorful movie I've ever seen. There is a lot of style in this one that was there in some of the other ones, but there's much more packed into this one. I already mentioned some amazing moments, just really some of the best moments of the franchise are in this movie. Godzilla and Kong both have fantastic entrances in this movie. I think Godzilla's entrance is my favorite that I've ever seen in the franchise. And I didn't put this in my notes for some stupid reason, but I'll just go ahead and tell you, there's a ton of fighting in this movie, a ton of buildings getting destroyed. I think this franchise might have the highest body count of any movie franchise or any movie ever, unless you're counting all the people on the planets destroyed in Star Wars. I have no idea how sparsely populated those planets are supposed to be. Someone who knows everything about Star Wars is welcome to let me know in the comments. But there's a ton of collateral damage in these movies that is never really addressed, but that also kind of comes with the territory. I mean, seeing these monsters throw each other into buildings is kind of what you go to the movies for, and if you're too busy thinking about how many thousands of people are just getting squashed every 3 seconds, it does take away from it. I mean, that's not why you're watching this movie. But in short, blockbusters are back, baby, and I am excited. It has been a year since big movies like this have come out, and while these types of movies are not necessarily my favorite movies, they are a ton of fun to watch. They're a fun experience. I don't put them on the same level as The Godfather or anything like that. That would be stupid of me to do. But comparing this to other movies like it, I mean, I will put this up against Transformers movies any day. They're very similar in a lot of ways, and I just enjoyed watching this one a ton more, and I felt like the story made sense. I mean, it is a thin story, but there's enough details in there, and the glue that binds all of these amazing colorful fight sequences together is strong enough to hold them together. So right now, at this point in 2021, everybody watching this video has a different risk level with COVID, and I mean a different risk level of catching it, having severe complications from it, and risk of infecting somebody else. If you're in a safe zone where you've been vaccinated or whatever, then I do recommend seeing this movie on the big screen. I recommend that with big spectacle movies like this anyway, but this one in particular, there's such a scale with these creatures. I feel like they're even too big to call them creatures, and for me to say kaiju feels too nerdy. The scale is so big with them that a big screen really will help, and yeah, you might have a 75-inch screen at home, and yes, this movie will look amazing on it, but the sound and scale on a giant screen is gonna be the way to go with this one. If it's not an option for you, watching it with HBO Max is fantastic. At the very least, if you have not signed up for HBO Max and you're interested in this movie, it may be good enough to get at least a 1-month subscription. I get no benefit from recommending HBO Max, but if you do that, you will also be able to get Mortal Kombat, which comes out in just 2 or 3 weeks. So before your first month is paid for, you'll get another movie that does look promising from Warner Brothers. But I will keep making these reviews as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for watching my Godzilla vs. Kong review, and you will see me on the next one.